Today's story is of such a robot which a married couple bought to make their daily life easier. But as the robot kept becoming a part of their home, their thinking started changing, and then one day he started feeling human emotions. The limit was crossed when he fell in love with the lady of the house. But the real twist came when he found out that he is not an ordinary robot. Inside him, a very big role is hidden. So, hello friends, let's start today's interesting story. The story starts from a couple named Jean and Sophie. These two live in a simple apartment and do all house chores together, whose condition is not very good. That's why he lives away from his rich father with his wife Sophie, living an ordinary life. Although his dad is a well-known businessman of the city, but due to some old fight, Jean lives separate from him. Then one day, news comes that Jean's father has died, and he has given his entire property and business in Jean's name. Now James and Sophie are forced to leave the apartment and go to their old bungalow, the same house where they now have to live, and Jean has to handle his father's business. But in such a big house and changing lifestyle, Sophie doesn't like anything. She had gotten used to an entire life like that. That's why she gives leave to all the servants on the very first day. When Jean comes home at night and hears all this, then he says, "In such a big house, without help, all the work can't be done alone. We need a solution." But Sophie clearly refuses. "We used to manage everything together earlier too, so why not now?" After a bit of argument, both come to an understanding and come even closer to each other. Life slowly starts catching its pace, but Jean now becomes so busy in the business that he can't give time to Sophie. All responsibility of the house comes on Sophie's head, and alone she starts getting tired. One day Jean talks all this with his friend. The friend gives advice. "My dad used to work in an acrobatics company. There, some special robots are made which look exactly like humans and can do all the housework." Then what? The next day, Jean takes Sophie to that company. On reaching there, Sophie gets shocked because the robots standing in front were walking like humans, talking, and it didn't even seem that they were machines. Now James and Sophie seem a little scared. They talk among themselves. What if these robots become a danger to us one day? Just then, the owner of the company, Julian, assures them, "You will never have any trouble from them. Not today, not in the coming time. This is my guarantee." He tells that these robots were made by his father after giving his entire life, and he himself has spent half his life working on them. Then to gain trust, Julian gives a demo. He gives a command to a robot named Hendrik that he should lick Jim's shoe, and Henry, without hesitation, does it. Seeing this, Jean and Sophie get full trust. Then they buy Henry and bring him home. As soon as he comes home, Henry creates a miracle. He alone handles all the work of the house, which earlier even many servants together couldn't do. Whenever Jean talks to him, Henry replies like a human, completely normal and with understanding. Jean slowly starts getting attached to Henry, and in free time starts talking with Henry. Although in the beginning, Sophie feels a little awkward with Henry. It feels strange to her that a robot looks like a human and behaves like one. But as time passes, seeing Henry's gentle behavior and hard work, she slowly starts getting impressed. Now when Jean goes to office, instead of staying alone at home, Sophie starts spending time with Henry. Henry takes care of her every need because his programming is like that he should always keep his owner happy. After Henry comes, in Jean and Sophie's life, more peace comes than before. Their problems start reducing, and everything starts feeling better than before. One day, he serves breakfast in the morning. At that moment, Sophie starts asking him questions about human feelings and love. Henry answers every question very intelligently, which deeply impresses Sophie from within. Now she no longer sees him as just a machine, but starts feeling him like a person. But when Jean finds out that Sophie is talking to Henry like this, he explains to her, "Look, if we treat him like this, then he will start to understand and know himself. What if tomorrow he turns against us?" But Sophie does not agree with Jean's words. At night, when both are sleeping, Sophie hears some strange sounds coming from Henry's room. She quietly gets up and goes to see, and sees that Henry has come out of his room and is lying down in the garden. She goes near him and sees that Henry is lying down, but his behavior is like someone dreaming. Suddenly, he sits up and asks Sophie, "Where am I?" Sophie asks in shock, "How did you come outside? And were you dreaming?" Henry replies, "Yes." Hearing this, Sophie is completely shocked. A robot is dreaming. The next day, she calls Julian, who checks Henry. After checking, Julian says, "Maybe this is some small technical error. Sometimes such minor glitches can happen." But when Sophie tells him that Henry was dreaming, Julian becomes serious. He says, "Look, this robot is very advanced, and you treated Henry as if he were a human. So maybe he learned human emotions. Maybe now he has started thinking about you. That's why maybe the dream was also related to that." Hearing this, James gets angry. He says to Sophie, "This all happened because of you. You treated him like a human, so now he also thinks of himself as a human." Because of this, a fight breaks out between them. In the next scene, James comes out of the bathroom. Henry comes there, and Jean says, "Shave me." Henry picks up his razor and starts doing it. Jean asks in surprise, "How did you know this is my razor? Even Sophie's trimmer was lying here." Henry replies, "My programming is such that I quickly absorb things. This is part of my duty." After this, James explains to him, "You must understand that you are just a program. Your job is to help humans, not to become like them. You must do only what you are told." Now it's night. Sophie comes into the bedroom, but Jean doesn't talk much to her. Pretending to be a bit tired, she goes straight to sleep. But then we see that Sophie and Henry are talking to each other. Henry says, "I have started understanding things like emotions and love. And when I think, I only think about you." After this, Sophie says to Henry, "Give me a massage." Henry agrees and starts massaging gently. Then he slowly starts kissing Sophie, and Sophie also sits with him. Slowly, they start coming closer to each other. But suddenly, Sophie wakes up. She was dreaming. Jean asks, "Were you dreaming something?" Sophie looks a bit startled but says, "Yes, it was a dream, but I don't remember what it was." She doesn't tell Jean anything. Sometime later, when Jean is about to leave for the office, he sees by the poolside Henry and Sophie are standing together and talking. Now, a suspicion starts growing in James's mind. He goes straight to Julian and says in a serious tone, "Because of Henry, my wife is getting away from me. And now he's also showing emotions." Julian calmly replies, "Robots don't have real emotions. They respond the way they are programmed. If he received a signal of someone's desire, he will try to fulfill it. That's how he's designed." An angry Jean returns home and starts scolding Henry. From now on, forget human feelings. According to his programming, Henry tells Sophie, "Jean has told me to speak as little as possible with you." Hearing this, Sophie gets furious. She starts arguing with Jean. The fight gets so big that Sophie leaves the house crying. In the next scene, John and Henry are playing video games. Henry calmly explains, "Earlier, you and Sophie used to spend time together. Due to business, you got busy. That's when I was brought in. Sophie treated me like a human, and that's where the spark started." But Jean, in his heart, cannot accept this. While shaving in the bathroom, James jokingly gives Henry a strange command. Henry, without asking anything, follows it. The next morning, John realizes his mistake. As he is leaving for the office, he calls Sophie. "Please come back home." Sophie returns. Henry is giving her a massage. At that moment, he gives Sophie a light kiss. Sophie wakes up for a moment, and she doesn't even mind. Gently, Henry says, "I think I have started falling in love with you." Hearing this, Sophie is stunned. She says, "Henry, stop. Go outside now." In the evening, Jean returns home. Sophie tells him everything. Henry kissed her and expressed love. James bursts with anger. He goes straight to Henry and asks, "Why did you do this?" Henry calmly says, "Understanding the situation, it felt right." Jean's slap. What happened next? Did the robot continue the relationship with the lady, or did something bad happen? To find out, subscribe to the channel and comment Part 2.